Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen Originals Podcast. I'm your host Paul Machin. Joining me today, Chris Pajak, Chloe Bloxham and Dan Clubb, the A-team, here to talk about some A-plus level transfer stuff.
Hi, Steve.
Listen, it's not what you say, sometimes it's what you don't say. And it was fine. No, Steve would be. Steve's part of the A-team, he's just not here. And he's never on this podcast, so as far as this podcast goes,
yeah, I listen. I'm with you.
This is it, tippity top, cream of the crop. We are going to be discussing Florian Wirtz, of course. We will be discussing Jarell Quansah. We will be having some centre-back chat, and then we're going to have a big old natter about Alex Isak and how possible we think it is that Liverpool will make a stunning summer transfer move for him a little bit later on. Before we do, Dan, the man who's chatted to everyone has only gone a step further this weekend and chatted to one of our new signings, Mr. Jeremy Frimpong.
Yeah, I've done myself. It was a pleasure actually to be in his company, not just in terms of the actual interview, but to have a chat to him pre-interview and just be around him. He is just a really fun character, effervescence, just full of energy, full of life. Just delighted to A, be a Liverpool player, and B, just be around people by the looks of it. Just honestly, anyone he saw, he was full of hugs, positivity, just buzzing from start to finish. Like really, really good fun, good personality, and full of energy, which is more than can be said for me come the end of yesterday, to be fair. But boss, enjoyable experience actually.
I heard you recording one of your interviews today, and it was just like, there you go, people making general chat. How you going? And you were like, yeah, good. Yesterday was long. Yesterday was a thing, but I'm here and I'm alive and I'm still moving somehow.
As we know, I'm not one to complain much, generally speaking. So when it comes to like being active and busy and having long days, it's kind of par for the course when you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But shit me, yesterday was long. Yesterday was, even for me, it was long and somewhat arduous at times. But honestly, it was the experience. Every time I came across, spoke to Jamie Frimpong was nothing but magnificent. He is fun, very, very fun.
So just to give you an example of, what time did you get there, Dan?
Me, just after 11 o'clock in the morning.
And what time did you interview Jeremy Frimpong?
About 5:30, 5:45.
What time did you get up?
I mean, about 5:30.
And then what time did you go on your park run?
I did park run at 9 o'clock. Yeah.
I mean, some might say you do it to yourself.
Without a shadow of it, I don't blame anybody but myself. But there's also,
you're allowed to feel it though.
Yeah, I think exactly. There is also a point in some days where I go, "What the fuck's happened here?" And yesterday, most of the time, I'm quite upbeat and positive about what I bring upon myself because I enjoy it. I do the things I enjoy, and it makes me feel good. But there is every now and then there's a moment in a day where I go, "Yeah, this is too much." And yesterday, about 3 o'clock, I was living in that hell.
Yeah, I feel like quite a lot. Maybe that's a post-40 thing, Chris. Anyway, the full interview and bits and pieces. Is it on the YouTube channel?
Straight on YouTube, mate. Yeah, a couple of socials knocking around as well. But the full interview on YouTube now. And like I say, it was really, really good.
Amazing stuff. Yeah, check that out on our YouTube channel if you would. And anyway, yes. Hi, everyone. Hi, Chloe.
Hello.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. My Sunday wasn't quite like Dan, so didn't meet Jeremy, which, is a bit sad, but I did have a Sunday roast about the time that you were dying, actually. Yeah. So
just on Jeremy, sorry, really quick. He's really small,
Yeah,
I know me and you, we're quite big, but because a lot of people commenting in like how big I must be. I mean, I'm 6'3", so I'm not a small person, but he is not tall.
Yeah. I watched the video. I was like, wow, there's framing issues here.
Yeah.
Maybe sitting down.
We thought about that. The original setting for the interview, had it been at the time, it says we was sitting down, but it wasn't possible where we got moved to. But I'm sure it will be an issue, but it's just worth mentioning. He's not tall.
He's not a tall boy.
No.
How much taller than me?
Oh, no.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure people walk around with that comparison in their heads.
No, I do. That's what I want to know.
Not much.
Not much.
No, not much at all.
How tall are you, Clive?
5'6", 5'7".
So you don't even know how fucking tall you are.
No.
Pathetic.
But the comparison is to her.
Yeah.
She is the scale.
Yes.
Not the feet.
But she doesn't know what the fucking measurement of the scale is. So how's anyone?
You have to stand next to her.
How is anyone else to work it out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you definitively if I knew how tall you were. 5'6", 5'7", give or take.
I mean, there's not much in it, guys.
Yeah.
No, I think Wikipedia's been kind. I think Wikipedia up down is 5'8", I want to say. I think it's a little bit generous, that.
Okay, cool. but hopefully his effervescent nature will add to that stature. Okay, cool. Listen, let's do some news and outs and stuff just briefly. Dan, I'll start with you. I guess you probably didn't have time to consume. Actually, that's so Saturday. The 21 for England was Saturday, was it? Did that have your full attention?
Not full attention's kind, truthfully. I came across it and I know the results of it. England have done quite well, actually, given the fact that they scraped through the group. Like, they were beaten in the final group game and needing it. I went into that game believing needed a draw to get through, got beat and still managed to get through. So that blew my mind a little bit. But they've made it through to the semis now, so fair play.
Yeah, fair play to them. Harvey Elliott on the score sheet, Quansah and Morton all involved as well. My dad said Tyler Morton played really well. I was like, I had no idea Tyler Morton was even at that tournament. So there you go. Everyone's just adding to their price tag. Jarell, we will come to in a moment. But first, Chris, Florian Wirtz, since we were last here, 100% confirmed, unveiled, Florian Friday and all that stuff. I think the wider internet made it what it was. Was it a bit underwhelming, the whole unveiling thing after everything we've been through? I don't know what I was expecting.
I don't know. I think when something's sprung on you, it's obviously much more fun, isn't it? If we were to find out on Thursday night that we're in for Florian Wirtz and then Friday night he's unveiled, you're going to have a lot more fun with it all, aren't you? So it does drag on a little bit. But no, I don't think it was underwhelming. I think just to get him through his medical, that was the big thing, wasn't it? Because as much as, the clubs are going to agree, we've agreed his contract and all that type of stuff, we've been here before where medicals have been failed. So for me, just to get him through his medical and know that he's a Liverpool player, sound. There was a point where I was like, is this actually going to get done today? Because we were waiting around for it and stuff like that, and you're thinking to yourself, please, not
drop within office hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking,
it did not drop
within office hours. And it's 5 o'clock and it's 6 o'clock, and then Steve's giving it the big one in the WhatsApp group.
I
I'm going to get half an hour notice. I'm going to get half an hour notice. We didn't get half an hour notice at all, did we?
Shots fired.
He's catching. Well, I was going to say he's not catching a stray. That's a full-blown down.
No,
that's a headshot to
just
steal.
he went, no, I'll let you know. No, it doesn't look like it's happening tonight. Put me food in the oven. Half an hour later, went to pick it up to eat it. Boom. I was like, what the fuck, Steve? You just told me I could give up for tonight.
Steve's advance warning forgot to advance warn him.
Yeah. Because Steve's advance warning was having his dinner when it broke. So there we go.
But I think the underwhelming thing, what I mean is, I think we do this to ourselves more than anything else. Maybe it's a personal thing in some instances because every stage of every transfer now is this has been done now for 2 weeks, as in it's so happening definitively that it's going to come. But actually, I what I do actually mean is from how Liverpool announced it, they did the bucket hat on the seat thing, a little bit before, very very short amount of time before it happened, and it was a bit of there was a little bit of an interview that came out with him, it was all fine. I don't know whether.
I did think about this, so I do get what you're talking about, and I think what's ended up happening is they've needed to get it done Friday.
Yeah.
And they've just had to kind of rush through it a little bit in that regard where, a 2-stage medical and all that type of stuff. And once that's done, it felt like that's when the filming started with him. And they were like, we're aiming for sort of 5 o'clock, and then it's probably gone a little bit later and all that type of stuff. And I just think they've had their own personal deadline that they needed to sort of adhere to. And that's why it was like it was.
Yeah, and I guess it's what else can you do? But I mean, not that we've ever really done anything. I was going to say,
we're sticking to a theme, aren't we? It feels like with these, they're all very much of a muchness now. I don't dislike them, but we don't... I'm going to sound horribly negative here. We haven't got particularly creative with them, I don't think. When you think about what other clubs have done, like Burnley, front and centre leading the race when it comes to how to announce it.
Stunning.
They are boss, genuinely. Everyone's just wildly different. We are little plays on a theme, but they're a little bit templated. And again, I don't hate it. If we just go about our business and sign players like that, who gives a shit? But if you are after the bells and whistles type announcements, I don't think we're the club for you.
Does anyone think this is because of the lingering Nike to Addy handover? Because obviously we know the squad numbers haven't been announced for them yet, but of course they've got pre-season games to play at some, so it's gonna, it's not like they can wait until August to announce those things, unless they do something mad and it's a friendly, so you just play without a number, which would be crazy, of course. But I do wonder whether there is a bit of like that of how much do they want to do. In fact, I thought Adidas's announcement of him was probably better than Liverpool's in some regards, because it was funny and it was a bit out there and it was subtle, but not too subtle at the same token. I don't know. I wonder whether there's you might get something bigger later on in the summer when all the business is done, where they might do a bit of a fanfare or something. Anyone?
I don't know. I definitely think the Adidas Nike thing is real. Obviously, I think that both at Nike and Adidas are probably a bit of a standoff at the moment. The club's kind of caught in the middle of it and stuff like that, where, those pictures that they want of Florian Wirtz out there, they don't probably really want him all in Nike kit. Adidas obviously do. He's German, Adidas, German company, etc., etc. They'd love to have gone big and heavy on it all and stuff, and they did, didn't they, with their own little sort of graphics and stuff. So I definitely think it's a thing. But I think Dan's probably right. It's probably a little bit more templated than anything else at the moment. And I think the other thing with that is, at least with the Frimpong signing, you had that history of his family and stuff like that, and so they could lean into that. But it comes across like Wirtz is all about football, all about winning trophies, all about succeeding in that regard. And this isn't, I might be completely wrong here, but it doesn't feel like he's got that huge personality. His personality is, I want to fucking win and I want to be the best in the world. And there's not as much to play with in that.
And I suppose, what am I thinking of here? Because the biggest we've ever done was really for like Van Dijk and Salah's contract renewals. And actually some of the biggest stuff we've done has been Salah contracts. There was the one where he was on holiday in the sun,
wasn't he?
and he's like lying by the pool and he's flicking through his phone or whatever. That was quite creative.
That was creative, yeah, it's true.
But we don't really go huge on new signings, and you set a precedent and maybe add pressure for no reason. I mean, I'm not expecting him to be playing a piano in the middle of the fucking pitch or whatever, like, because we know that doesn't bode well for signings. But
that would have been Bobby, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
he'd have done that.
Yeah.
Was that Sanchez?
Or
Did it?
Ali with a guitar in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, the Van Dijk one was just him by a Christmas tree, wasn't it?
Taking on his own phone. In fact, Bobby Firmino's was the same. Bobby Firmino, because it was him and Ian Ayre holding the shirt, and I interviewed.
It's a low quality pic, that as well.
Well, it is and it isn't, because we did the Bobby Firmino documentary, and I interviewed Ian Ayre for that and got him to send me the original photo because it was taken on his phone, and of course 2015 smartphones, not quite 2025 smartphones, of course, but low key. But also I suppose what are you looking for? And we were all just looking for Wirtz. I think it's the shirt thing though. It's to some extent like seeing them in last season's kit is a bit like, it's just the awkward situation Liverpool find themselves in. And I wonder if they'll just do a mega photo shoot in like the start of August with all the big hitters and something like that. They've got to do something, haven't they? There's got to be some sort of fanfare around it all, as opposed to we just rock up to that double header pre-season game. Oh, we're in the new kits. Off we go.
Do you reckon that they might have actually done that and they just can't release anything yet? Like before they all went on holiday, they got the kits. You're not allowed to post anything.
Oh God, it'll all be like, I'm sure. Like,
and then it just.
But then there'd be no Kerkez.
Yeah, but maybe they have the kits there and they've done the back. So with Frimpong.
Oh, they'll almost certainly be.
Well, they've done it all.
Actually, that's an interesting point. I don't know whether that's the case, but I can't imagine there won't be. They won't be like the squad won't have done stuff over it. Maybe, who knows? It's awkward either way. But interesting. Anyone's take. We're just wide of the mark of here. What would we have done? We've just broken the British transfer records, our biggest signing ever. Everyone's hyped for it, and actually, maybe in some regards, us treating him just like any other signing could be a very Liverpool way of doing things. Yeah.
It's also a little bit safer if you do something big on a contract renewal for someone who's done really, really well for you, isn't it, in that regard?
Yeah, I like that.
I think this is just going about our business. I think that's the way we're trying to sort of play it off. Like, this isn't that big a deal. This is just us making a signing as Premier League champions. That might also play into what we're talking about. We don't need the fanfare and the buzz and the difference around him, because this is just all doing how we act.
This is when, like, Kerkez paraglides into Anfield. I mean, he's been trying to do that himself for weeks anyway, hasn't he? He's been doing his own announcement photos and videos for weeks.
Dual paragliding.
Anyway, more on him in part two. There's a couple of super chats before we move on.
Sorry, it does add pressure though as well, though.
Yeah,
like, you know, you see the way Real Madrid go and get people to do keepy-ups and all this type of stuff in front of a full stadium and stuff. It adds a needless amount of pressure.
Just put him in a suit and let him do a press conference in fluent English and have the by people go, yeah, we all speak English anyway, that's fine. Michael McGuinness says, remember our kit announcement with goalkeeper home, away third in 2007? We should do that with the new Adidas kit with Mamardashvili in goalkeeper kit, Frimpong in home, Vert away, Kerkez in the third one. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all if you did something like that. But in fact, it's great that you referenced in 2007, and that is a great example of it. It was like Gerrard, Carragher, Reina. But we've done that more recently. Anyone? Hodgson, Wilson, Jovanovic.
Yes, I do remember. Yeah,
Cole?
Danny Wilson. Yeah, Christ on a bike. I remember that.
Anyway, Ryan says, does anyone else find the João Pedro thing very strange? Why are Newcastle pushing to sign him for 60 million when, in my opinion, the only position he can play in the Newcastle system is centre forward?
You've answered your own question there, pal.
Not putting two and two together, but
yeah, absolutely. Anyway, we'll pick up on that later on as well, because I think it is a very interesting point indeed. Okay, Jarell Quansah, Chloe.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like 100% done now, but it looks very.
I think it's all confirmed at the clubs, but he's waiting until the under-21s tournament finishes to actually get it.
So yeah, it's not. I mean, what I'm saying is
exactly.
It's not 100% confirmed, but the smart money is that Jarell Quansah is going to be a Bayer Leverkusen player. First off, how do you feel about that?
Not great. I'm going to be honest. This was a lad that 12 months ago we wouldn't let go to Newcastle because we thought he was our next centre half for the next 10 years, and I think we rated him so highly. He got offered a new contract, and he was starting the season alongside Virgil van Dijk for the first 45 minutes, and it's fair to say he's had an absolute torrid time last season. And I wanted him, if he wanted to go somewhere, I wanted him to go out on loan and just get his confidence back. But Sutton, I still think the quality is there from him, and I think maybe Slot just doesn't favour him, and that's maybe why we're a bit more ruthless in these kind of situations. I think if that's Klopp, maybe this doesn't happen. But yeah, I feel a little bit sad because I 12 months ago I'd have sat here and told you he's our centre half for the future. Whether he takes up the Virgil role on the left instead of the right, back then I wouldn't have been too sure, but I thought he had loads of quality. The way he steps up from a defence and is able to pass about. We talked about him doing Matip type things. So yeah, I'm a little bit sad to see him go, and I hope Liverpool have got some. I think they do have some sort of buyback clause in it. Yeah. But I am just a little bit sad about it because I did think he was a really good footballer, and I just think he's had a really tough season last season.
It's interesting though, because I think Chloe's right there, Chris. It's 12 months ago. I think if you asked me on the balance of probabilities which of Liverpool's defensive options was leaving the club, it would have been Virgil and probably Quansah underneath in terms of the least likely to go, almost in some regards. Kanate was on unsteady ground. Obviously Trent's contract stuff, maybe even Virgil with the contract stuff. Maybe you throw into this. Gomez was one where we think maybe he'll need to move and get some footy.
Quansah's just coming off the back of signing a 5-year deal as well.
Yeah, and having had a breakout season for us, so it is odd almost to be it. But I suppose it's counterbalanced with, if you're talking in the region of 35 million quid, is really good money for a lad who's played not actually a great deal of football for us.
Yeah, I think it is. Listen, I sat here a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Why make a rod for your own back? I don't think Slot and Hughes see it like that at all, and that's the difference, isn't it? Mm-hmm. We're not privy to have Liverpool got their eyes on a centre half. They've got their eyes on a centre half. We'll come to that, but when it comes to Quansah, they're just looking at it and going, I think we can get a player for around about the same, a better player for around the same amount of money. And Arne Slot, as I've said this a couple of times on Vert videos and stuff, he is a wheeler dealer by the looks of things. He's very much in the Harry Redknapp. He's just doing it with the best players in the world at the moment. He's like, he's better than him, right? He's out. And I think you're spot on, Chloe. I think Jürgen would have gone, no, this is our group of players. This is the lad that we believe in and all that type of stuff. Yeah. I think we can build him back up and stuff. And Slot's just looking at it and going, I can get a better player. So I'm going to go and get a better player.
No, listen, I'm in the process of building a playlist on Spotify that's called Just Bangers. And you think you might have an absolute banger, but then you play it, and then you play it in 2 or 3, and you go, actually that level's a little bit lower there. I can get better in there. And that feels a bit like it, kind of like Quansah's absolutely sound, and there's a world where if he just got a run of games, I'm sure he would absolutely excel. But I agree. I don't think Slot is playing that game. I don't think he's playing the game of like, oh, look what this guy's going to be in 2 or 3 years' time. He's like, no, I'm going to win next season. And to win next season, I want more players who are ready to go right in the here and now.
Yeah, it certainly looks to be the case, doesn't it? Obviously, we saw, very much firsthand early on the season, maybe he wasn't quite as sold on Quansah as Jurgen Klopp was. But I'm weirdly, as much as I admired and was absolutely delighted with the season he had under Jurgen Klopp, the breakout season you mentioned, I'm weirdly excited and optimistic by the fact that we've been willing to do this, because as Chris alludes to that, it means that there's somebody we like, it's somebody we really want to go and get. And the fact we've obviously been quite strongly linked with Lenny Yoro and Dean Howson recently as well means that we're in the market for a young centre-back anyway. So if we're willing to let Quansah go, who's the guy? Who's the one we now want? You know what I mean? So I think it's a really good sign and a really sort of positive thing. But also, we saw the best and the worst of Jarell Quansah literally on the weekend in the England game that you mentioned. Comes out of defence, like you mentioned, like Joel Matip-esque, and then gives away a penalty 5 minutes later. So he is still very raw. He is still very much learning. Liverpool's buyback clause, I believe, is like double what we've sold him for. So whether we ever actually go into
that's just insurance, mate. Yeah. Name me a player that we've bought back off a buyback clause.
We did it with Bobby Clark, haven't we, as well?
No, there's a first option clause on him, but you're right, because Ryan Brewster's got one. That's never going to. I mean,
yeah, we've done it. We've put them in loads, but we never activate.
It's just smart. It's future-proofing yourself. It's protecting yourself, as you say. But yeah, I like Quansah. I wish him all the best, absolutely. But I think the fact that we've been willing to be this cutthroat and ruthless means that, again, we're not messing around.
It's just on your point, I'll come to you on this. I'm talking about, Elliot falls into this, and we had a good chat about Elliot last week or the week before. These are good footballers. Yeah. This is not us saying they're not good enough, and not even not good enough to play for Liverpool. But it is a thing of, I just think Slot just wants is very much in the here and now of it all, but not in like that stupid Chelsea late Alex Ferguson kind of way where you're going to mortgage the future of the club for guys who've only got 2 years left in the legs or whatever. But I do find it, to your point, a bit sad that there's 3 lads playing for the England 21s at the moment, and not one of them will start a game for Liverpool next season. In fact, all 3 of them will most likely be playing for new clubs, and that's sad, but also a strong indication of just how fucking good we are. That this is being brilliant for the 21s used to be a good benchmark, and now we're looking for better.
Yeah, and look, I'm seeing the positives in it in the case of, I think I've sat here and we've spoke about Quansah before, and I've said I just want him to get his confidence back up, because he can't play like he was playing last season. It shoots his confidence completely, and we know that's hard to bring back. But also for his own development, he needs to go and play, and it was clear that under Slot he probably isn't going to get that. So yeah, get your move to Leverkusen, a decent fee for Liverpool, a great club for him to go to as well, to learn, develop, play week in, week out, be a leader for them, because they've lost the likes of Jonathan Tah, who was their captain. So it's good for him as well. It's good for Liverpool in terms of he's going to a team that will develop him and will treat him right, and will make sure that if we ever do think he's as good as what we expected him to be 12 months ago, or we thought his ceiling was, then we do have the ability to go and get him back. But I think you've got to kind of let him enjoy the football, and it's mad because if he wouldn't have had that breakout season under Jurgen Klopp, he's sat here now not bothered really about playing football probably, but it's the fact that he's had a little taste of it and he's seen what he can do on the biggest stage, and he wants more of it, and he believes he deserves that. So it is like that. The only other thing I have on it was, I thought Gomez would be the one leaving, and that was my outlook. It was keep Quansah, because I did think he was going to be a centre-half in the next 10 years. Joe Gomez, it feels like his time at Liverpool has came, and he deserves to go. He's more older, and he plays a far less amount of games, or he's available for a far less amount of games. So I just expected Gomez to leave. So that it's like, you might have to bring in 2 if a good fee comes in for Gomez as well. But Liverpool have just seen an opportunity once again and taken it. And look, that ruthless nature is something that we've probably missed a little bit in the club from the last however many years.
But it speaks to squad building. I think we lose sight of this sometimes, Chris, is that you've got your lads. You can only have so many world-class footballers, and then you do need to have other lads who are, who aren't therefore going to play loads of football, and actually having the right personalities underneath, and actually the right age ranges and all that kind of stuff. And Quansah's in that let's do the Quansah Gomez thing of you're actually, if they thought Quansah was the one, then they'd be moving heaven and earth to keep him. And they'd be promising him game time next season. They're clearly not doing that. So they've obviously, I would guess, they've made a decision to go, this is his peak value now. Because a year of him not playing football for us, and then he becomes a 25 million or a 20 million or a 50 or whatever. And Gomez on the flip side of it, sometimes you need players who just are happy to be there and play their part as much as Dan loads them as human beings and their mentality in life.
Correct.
You can't build a squad with a team full of Dans. You've got to build a team. You've got to have a squad of people who fulfill all kinds of different roles. For every Mo Salah, you need to have someone who did what Chiesa's just done.
Costas, Endo.
Costas, Endo again, and Gomez. Lads who are more than good enough to play as the 11th member of the team or 10th or 11th, but you're not building anything around.
No, and listen, it might just be that Liverpool don't think... Liverpool might just think that last season was his level and the year before was him overshooting it. You know, there's that part of it as well where they've just gone, right, okay, well, this value, as you say, is at its highest now and we'll move on. I think PSR is having a massive impact on Liverpool's sort of transfer window at the moment, to be honest with you. I think that's 30 to 35 million that goes straight into the account. Your amortisation comes into play with all your signings and stuff. If you can get 40 for him, 40 for Harvey Elliott or close to 20 for Morton, there's 100 million straight into your account this season. You know, do the same next season. I think Liverpool are confident actually that what they've got in the academy is going to continue to churn through and going to continue to make them money year in, year out, pay for itself, allow Liverpool to spend big when we need to, sit off and wait when we need to as well. It's an all-encompassing strategy, I think, that we're looking at one part of it, but actually it's been going on for a few seasons now and we've looked at different parts at different stages of those few years. But I think Edwards and Richard Hughes and everyone else at the top of the football club are looking at it all together and putting their arms around and going, this is what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a hypothetic, Dan, where look, he didn't. Marinallo, as an example, looked miles off it last season. You know, Quansah is streets ahead of him in terms of his development as a footballer, but also Quansah plays so little football for us, really, that there might be a case if you buy another centre half in who is much more ready to go, then Nallo can hoover up the bits and pieces at the bottom end for your League Cup and FA Cup games if needs be.
Yeah, most definitely. It's crossed my mind because I think somebody, as it stands, somebody will have to pick up some minutes along the way, whether it be, as you say, Carabao Cup and what have you, maybe the early rounds of the FA Cup as well. I think Nallo does definitely fall into that category. I think Wellesley Lucky might do as well. Liverpool are keen to give him a new deal. I think they like him a lot. We haven't seen him quite so much in terms of the senior training and senior squads and what have you, but ability level wise, there's not much to choose between the two, and you never know quite when they're going to sort of develop and at what rate. So Lucky might be in a better shout there as well. So yeah,
his luck might be
maybe. The only other consideration, I think, really, Liverpool may well deal with this by promoting your likes of Marinallo and Trey Naoni and who knows, Riangamo as well, is the homegrown. Could we just mention 3 England under 21 lads there who we all anticipate will leave the football club? Yeah. That's 3 literal homegrown footballers that will allow him to leave, and we have to be quite careful with that. We looked at this recently, Chris, and we were flirting a little bit closer to the wind with it. So
we're I think this Anfield did a good piece on this weekend. I think we're 2 over our allotted non-homegrown players at the moment.
Yeah, so things are going to have to move around before the squads get actually confirmed and what have you. So that's another thing, another consideration. I think Marc Guehi, we'll come touch on that later, he will come into that factor as well, because we are going to be smart and need to be smart with that.
Yeah, just an interesting thing. I mean, Quansah played just over 1,200 minutes for us last season, which actually 25 appearances. So the minutes, but also there's the fact that, you know, if you can play 38 minutes, but it could be 38 appearances, and that's different. You know, they're two different ways of looking at it, because you've got to be on the pitch 38 different times to do it that kind of way. So yeah, it feels like your point earlier from last week, Chris, is that we've made work for ourselves, but it's whether we trust that this is done with smart intentions rather than just like, oh, well, fuck it, 35 minutes, we'll figure it out. I don't think that will be the case. But then right now, you know, Liverpool's Richard Hughes, etc., are carrying a lot of credit in the bank at the moment.
Look, Richard's probably looking at his calendar going, bloody hell, by Friday I'll have nothing on my desk again. Need something to do, like, you know what I mean?
He works Fridays, Chris. What are you talking about?
He's addicted.
Do you know what I mean? He's looking at that going, what's Kerkez's box? Where's next? You know what I mean? Where's my next hit coming from?
Well, having played the director of football role in our Champ Manager series, I can, it's addictive. Like, you mean, just God, where's your next hit? Where's your next transfer hit?
That's how you end up with £15 million Alan Shearer.
Yeah. That's why you end up with Zlatan Ibrahimovic on a 1 month loan by mistake.
1 month loan he brought him for. I was like, what are you doing? He's on a loan. How long for?
Click the wrong button.
Fuck.
Click the wrong button. Yeah. I was the Todd Bowley of Sabre 102 back in the day. On the squad building thing, Chris, the one thing about this, in fact, I'll tell you what. No, actually, I'll do this here. I mean, we'll move on to Gray after this, after the break. But we have to go back to my squad building point. City and Chelsea, one typical City-Chelsea moves over the last 20 years when they've been big fat movers in terms of like getting themselves up to the top table and keeping themselves at the top table is to buy lads who are Premier League quality, international quality, but not necessarily good enough to play on a week in, week out basis. And we've kind of scoffed a bit at that because that's just not how Liverpool perform. Liverpool's money has been often in the first 11 and nothing. So the idea of your Steve Sidwells and Scott Parkers and countless others, the lad who played for Leeds who's now went to Ipswich last season,
Calvin
Phillips.
There we go. Both clubs have got tons of examples of this. I do wonder whether we might see actually a bit more of that from Liverpool. It's certainly it's edging towards that rather than have space for 20-year-old, 21-year-olds who might be good enough. It looks like we'd rather have a 24, 25 or 26-year-old who absolutely is definitively good enough to be in there.
So who are those players that you're talking about?
Well, if we're saying Elliott, Quansah and Morton as examples, there's a world where I think over the last 20 years Liverpool would just keep them because why not? But if you're talking about like someone like maybe like Marc Guehi being linked, that feels like Liverpool might be actually edging towards more of how Chelsea and City have conducted themselves in transfer business, of having just more senior lads and less kids who've got room for development.
I don't know whether I would class Guehi on the same level as any of those players that you're talking about. I see him as someone who comes in and takes a shirt at some point, 12 months down the line, as an example. I think Liverpool may be a future-proofing, Konate maybe moving on and something like that. So for me, I don't know whether I see that as quite the same thing. I think Guehi is going to want to come in and is going to want to be a part of the first 11. He's going to have to work to get there, of course. But, the interesting things for me, if we can move on to it, is the links to Jarell Quansah and stuff like that. I actually think they're looking at that going, right, we're not doing a fantastic job of developing the young fullbacks. I mean, Conor Bradley, we've done a good job there. It was down to Trent's injuries. Can we get someone who's a little bit more left back, centre half, get the minutes that way around, rather than a Kostas Tsimikas who is one position. If he's not playing, there's nowhere else he can go into the side and do it a bit smarter in that regard rather than any other way around.
Down the Hato stuff, if we're signing Kerkez and let's say Guehi, I just don't see how we're buying Hato, or almost what the point of buying Hato is my...
Tsimikas would have to leave as well.
Yeah.
If you sold Tsimikas this summer too, then that makes a whole load of sense. That's an abundance of sense.
Yeah. I think in my head he's
that anyway. Robertson going as well, probably, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them. Both, because then you've suddenly got a young Kerkez.
I mean, you'd have to go out, if you sold both Robertson and Tsimikas, you'd have to go out and buy someone. I guess that would make sense to me then. But if you were convincing Robertson to stick around,
I think Robbo will go and it'll be Kostas who stays.
Yeah, so do I.
And I agree. Joe Gomez stays in this instance.
That's what I'm saying. Hato feels dependent on another footballer.
Yeah, I agree.
Or two more footballers. Maybe
I agree on that.
Football club.
Yeah, I think if Robertson and Gomez were to go as well, you could easily make room for Jarell Quansah because of the versatility and the hybrid stuff.
I don't know. I think that might be one where Liverpool go, this is an opportunity to sign someone, and they just take that risk rather than, all right, we don't really have a space. I think he'd come in and probably at the end of the year be the second place left back behind Kerkez, rather than, and then you basically say, look, we kept our security blanket and Kostas Tsimikas, fantastic to do, but you give game time to Jarell Quansah at left back because that's where he is actually most comfortable anyway.
Yeah. I think that hinges on Robbo then, doesn't it? For me, I'd be fighting tooth and nail to keep Robertson around another season. But you're right, if Robertson was to move on, Tsimikas is never going to be more than what he is. So actually having someone who can be that, that makes a good deal of sense. Right, listen, short break from us, and we're going to pick up on the Marc Guehi, who we've been just about dancing around for the first 35 minutes of this podcast. We'll really delve into him after this very short break.
No, Luis Diaz! He's from Caracas! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Redmen TV Live.
That was a good day, eh?
What a day indeed, yeah. I just want to see us live on stage at the Red Weekender. Then our YouTube special is out right now on the channel. A good hour of me and Chris and Steve just having a fun old time. We were doing largely our end of season awards, but like we tried to make it as different as possible. If you like end of season awards, well, how fresh and original? No, it's fresh and original. Go and watch it or listen to it. It's great. Right, as promised, Marc Guehi. I mean, he was very heavily linked away last summer, January. Newcastle have been after him in a big way. Dan, this was one of those to me where, yeah, I think he's a better centre half than Jarell Quansah. I think that's I'm more than comfortable saying that. I don't know if he's good enough to play for Liverpool, but also to my point in part one, I don't know if he's being signed as a regular starter for Liverpool. I think he's a little short, and I'm not sure he's quite at the level, but he could very easily be at the level if he comes in and trains next to Virgil van Dijk and is coached by Arne Slot.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I'm not wholly convinced right now that he is ready to sort of plug and play. Let's live in the horrendous world which Van Dijk left this summer instead of signing a new contract, and we'd have gone for Marc Guehi. I'd have been massively underwhelmed by that. I'd have been looking at different options personally. I think he's a very good, solid, established, proven Premier League centre-back. Been very good on the international stage as well now for England. The Euros, I think he was exceptional in, wasn't he, when England really weren't. But yeah,
you're looking at a Bastoni to be.
That was exactly the name I had in my head as I was saying that sentence a moment ago. Yeah, that was the only one that really do you know what? Actually, it's disappointing, clearly, but still, you can make your peace. I like Marc Guehi. I think he's good, but yeah, I don't think he's quite of the elite level, the world-class level that we're looking at really when it comes to sort of your star men. And in terms of coming and being a squad member, it's an upgrade on Quansah, as you touch on there. Newcastle really tried to get him last summer, like 3 or 4 bids rejected, didn't they? Yeah, Steve Parish drove a particularly hard bargain. So yeah, he's a year out from his contract being expired, which makes it all the more intriguing to Liverpool, I would imagine, in terms of can you get him now on a cut price deal? If not, do you turn his head enough to mean that you just get him for free next summer potentially as well? So
that was what I thought we were doing. I didn't think we'd sell Quansah for that reason. I think we're just, saying we're going to come and get you in a year's time. Hang on, pal. Quansah sticks around for another year, then, and you bring him in then. I just thought that was the way to, especially with the money that we're spending.
He's you're right, I don't think there's any, and I had a conversation with somebody this morning who played with him at Chelsea, and he basically said the same to me. He's fundamentally a very functional, high-level centre-half who does a lot of stuff very well. He's very good on the ball, he reads the game well, he's quick enough, he's strong enough, he's big enough. I think he does a lot of things very well. I don't think there's anything where you go, my God, he's exceptional at that, and that's what makes him stand out. You know what I mean? Just a very, very good level Premier League centre-back, and one who I think our squad would be better to have. But again, it's not a deal or a transfer that properly excites me, I don't think it's fair to say.
I'd say it feels like a squad signing for me. And if he gets better, he gets better. Yeah. But it is that question of how good does your covering centre half need to be? Do you need to be world class in every single aspect of defending? I honestly don't know. You know, we're blessed with Virgil van Dijk, so I've got no sense of how good any of our second centre halves are because he's
made them all better. He's made them all better.
I think Konate, to the point I think Konate on his day, the Real Madrid final, does have world class qualities in every single department. I think on his day he is up there with the best in the business, but he doesn't have that day very often. But you're right about the point about Van Dijk, and that will elevate whoever is alongside him's game, including Marc Guehi. So there's a lot to like from a base level in terms of what he does and what he brings. But again, if he was suddenly the main man, no, not for me.
Yeah, and it goes back to you've got to have enough players to cover what you need to do, and if they feel like where it makes sense to me is if they feel like they can get him for the money that they've just got in from Quansah, then laughing.
And spread that over 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You know exactly. So you're looking at 10 million a year and you just got 30 in.
Yeah, exactly. It's pure profit, isn't it, on Quansah? So that you're laughing in that regard. Then that makes perfect sense because that for me, just judging Liverpool's business like you're going through a deck of cards one at a time as opposed to spreading it all out, that feels quite logical to me. It feels like right now our squad's better than what it was at the end of the season. The Trent stuff is maybe where it's muddied a touch, but yeah, if you upgrade on a 21-year-old centre half who got 1,200 minutes and you're getting someone who played I think 34 or 38 or something like that games
another leader,
exactly. Then that's definitively an improvement. It becomes less so when I think it's one of those ones where I preached this last week where sometimes you need to see the full breadth of the business for something to make sense. I'm worried that this might make less sense to me if we do some other bits and pieces, because if he's not good enough to be better, if he's not better than Ibou Konate and can't be better than Ibou Konate, then you are just owning squad. You're buying squad players again, which I always think is slightly dodgy ground.
I take your point. I don't really disagree, Paul. But there has to be some consideration for Konate's contract, and you need to plan for that as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you think Guehi is the plan for that? Because I don't. You see, I see us identifying the young centre-half, by which I mean a 19, 20, 21-year-old. I still think we're in the market for one of them, having been in the market for 18 months. I think we will do, but I don't think that player is going to be ready if Konate leaves. I do. I don't know who it is, but I think they will have earmarked somebody who they believe will be ready for that, because I'm not sure Guehi can do that side for a start.
And look, that is a consideration massively. I think if Konate leaves and you've brought in Marc Guehi, then you're looking for somebody else anyway. But you don't know what the market's going to look like. You don't know how many centre halves are going to be out there. You don't know how many are going to be on the move. At least, if nothing else, you've boxed one that can play in the bloody Premier League.
Smart enough, absolutely.
A low price that you're not entering next season looking for 2 in what could be a challenging market.
No, I 100% agree on that one. I think whether it's mitigating for Konate this season or next season, I don't think it's necessarily Konate's replacement. No. I think it's a good body to have, and it makes it less of a panic where you're right, you've all of a sudden got to get a backup and your first choice. He does give you a bit of breathing room, and he might yet actually flourish.
That's the other thing.
But the concern is he's 6 foot, and Joe Gomez is that. And if you're keeping him and Gomez, you end up in a situation where you've got him, Gomez, and Endo, who are all centre-back options, who are all not the dominant that you're looking for. If you then got Jeremy Frimpong at right back, and you've got McAllister, Wirtz,
Kerkez, isn't it?
That's and there's your midfield again, who's not necessarily the tallest, and then who's your centre forward going to be? We don't know what that looks like at this point in time. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I feel like I'm sounding really down on it.
Sam Allardyce isn't in the league, and we play Arsenal twice.
Hey,
yeah.
Might be coming back.
Yeah, but no, I feel like I'm sounding down it. I'm not. I'd be really pleased with him as a signing. I think he's a definitive upgrade on Quansah, and I'll put a miniature full stop in there for now and just go, yeah, that'll be cool. We don't know if it's happening. We know that Palace are pricks to deal with, so that might be.
They don't have loads of leverage though this time, do they? Last summer they did, because he had 2 years left to run. All of a sudden, Palace are facing a future potentially without Europe, because that hasn't been resolved yet, so they might not get the influx of cash that they were hoping for from that. Obviously the FA Cup win was great, but the real sort of financial beauty of that was the European run that came after it. That might not exist. So they might look at it and go, what is it, 35 million there or thereabouts now, or letting one of our key assets walk out the door for free next summer.
Which they can't afford to do.
I know, and it's not how they operate either. They need that money to come in order to go and do a bit of business. So yeah, I think they may well hit a point whereby they just have to take the money.
I think if the rumours are that they're looking for 45 and Liverpool have spoken to them about 30, it sounds like something that's going to get done.
Yeah. It feels, I agree with that. It just depends on leverage. They might not have leverage per se, but if Newcastle come back in with 45, then that's where their leverage comes from. That, and I would suspect that's what they're looking to engineer. But then, of course, that's on Liverpool to convince the player that
Liverpool's the only place I want to go.
If it's hard set on Liverpool, that might be a different conversation again. I agree. And also, he's been, a decent servant. He's the captain of the football club. You can't imagine they'd really want to sort of like tarnish that necessarily and leave it on awful terms.
After he's the one who's lifted the trophy and everything else, that's them set for life, really, with him, innit?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, we'll obviously more to come on that, I would guess, in the next week or so. Speaking of things that are going to happen this week, Chloe, Milos Kerkez should be landing, at time of recording, should be landing into Liverpool any moment to come and complete his medical and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that as though it's done and risk the jinx. Cool. I mean, it's another one where, a bit like the vet stuff, we've known this is coming for ages. He's done everything in his power to let us be known that it's coming. It doesn't make me any less excited for it. But he is another one where I'm, how excited can you get about left backs from Bournemouth? I don't know, but I am actually excited to see him play for us, which is a big thing.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the energy that he brings to that left-hand side and the link-up play. I mean, I think we all would say that him arriving at the back post, you probably put your hat on him a little bit more than you did on Andy Robbo when the ball goes near the back post. And,
definitely.
Yes. And yeah, he's an exciting young lad. And look, if I was Bournemouth, I'd probably be absolutely fuming with the way he's leaving that club, the way he's gone on about it. I mean,
like Google Translate doesn't exist. Doing podcasts like AI can't translate anything. Yeah,
signing Liverpool shirts, off and about. I probably wouldn't be.
Was he a
Liverpool
supporters club then as well, by the way, or was he just?
They had a flag for a supporters club in Hungary, didn't they? I don't know if that was the setting, but he certainly owned the flag.
Yeah. But because he's doing it and arriving at Liverpool, I'm absolutely okay with it in this moment. But yeah, it's exciting to see another lad who's got full of energy. I think we said the left-back position is the one we needed to upgrade maybe the most. You had two lads last season who were fighting it out, and for the majority of it, you really were just chopping and changing. One was good one week, the other was good the next week. It'll be sad because I think Robbo will go and I'd like him to stay and be, the leader who helps Kerkez. But at the same time, the club will probably just let Robbo do whatever he wants because of how much he's gave to us. But yeah, exciting, loads of quality, boss engine on him as well, going up and down that flank. And yeah, it's exciting because it's another player to add who clearly wants to join us, who clearly loves the project. And Liverpool really needed a left back. And what have they gone and done? They've gone and got the best left back from the Premier League last season, and said, "Boss, nice one. We'll take that and improve our base squad." And like you said there, that isn't a squad player. That's a player who's going to take that fullback shirt, and he's going to be in your starting 11.
I'm looking for prime Robertson from him. Yeah. Maybe not necessarily from minute one, but
No, from minute one for me.
Okay.
I'm absolutely all in on this as a sign. I mean, this is going to be absolutely fantastic for us. It is Andy Robertson 5-6 years ago type of thing. It is someone who's got that ability to get up and down, but just because he's got that ability to get up doesn't mean he's not a good defender. He's a brilliant defender as well, and that's an important part of the puzzle, especially with we're not sure exactly what's going to be going on that right-hand side. So if you do need Kerkez to sit in a little bit more and let's say Frimpong flying up and down on the right-hand side, it's important that left back can defend, and he can bloody defend, and that's what it comes down to for me. And Chloe's point's right. We're going outside and the best left back in the league. You talked about before about whether you're going around picking Premier League experience. Yeah, we are. We're picking the best of the best in this regard. For that left back position, certainly we're weakening an opposite a rival as well, an up-and-coming rival as well. You could be weakening another rival, although maybe Crystal Palace aren't with the Marc Guehi thing. You've signed Jeremy Frimpong on an absolute steal, and you've signed the best player that's going to move this window. I mean, go ahead. And you've bought your next replacement for Andy Robertson. That's just fantastic. And, you know, that you think about how many fullbacks we've seen down the years, left and right backs for Liverpool, mate.
Garbage, most of them.
Most of them are. Yeah. And, you know, and it's a constant churn. If you can just box one of them off. Same the goalkeeper. Like Alisson, you know, it was churn, wasn't it? Until you get someone good and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like. You just don't need to worry about that anymore.
Do you remember when we signed Jose Enrique? And he gets a bit of a bad rap because he was never exceptional. But our left backs have been so awful for so long that having someone who was just like a left back,
even if he could only turn one way, it was still an improvement. He could only turn left, but that was fine.
He was watching him play for us was like such a blessed relief of just watching someone competent play left back for us was so good, and we're above and beyond that with Kerkez. So yeah, very very excited by that one. Right, we all want to do it. It's what we're all here for. Let's chat. Alex Isak. Chloe.
Hello.
The rumours won't go away, and what's quite interesting is they haven't been like definitively shot down, which is quite interesting for this stage of it all. Like, I'm not saying, you know, people are throwing it quite on Liverpool's toes. It's not as though people are saying there's bids put in or whatever, but there is clearly a mood around the Twitter sphere and the transfer sphere that Liverpool would be very, very keen on the idea of paying a good old wedge of money for Alex Isak if he was available.
Yeah, and who wouldn't? You know, he's one of the best number 9s out there, and he has Premier League experience. He's done it against us as well, which, you know, it stings a little. But yeah, you look at him and you see how world class he is as a footballer. You realise that actually Liverpool, imagine, we were so good last season. We scored the most goals. We were free flowing at times. Imagine putting him into this alongside Florian Wirtz as someone messing me. But
be messing myself.
But yeah, the thing about this is I don't think anyone's shutting it down because Liverpool obviously clearly admire the player, and I think there is you know, we could go and get him. I think Liverpool can make anyone's head turn pretty much, so I don't think that'd be the problem. The problem is you have just spent 116 million, potentially including add-ons, on Florian Wirtz. Are you going to, in the same window, go and do Isak? I'm not sure you do, and I'm not sure Liverpool will do.
I'll do them both.
Well, let me just pull you up on that a second, Chloe, because what I want to do next is I want us to discuss, first of all, why it won't happen. Why there's no chance on earth that Liverpool will sign Alex Isak, for a little bout of realism, and then I want us to run fucking riot on how it might happen. Dan?
Yes?
Look, Chloe mentioned it. Alex Isak, they're putting like 150 million price tag on him. Mm-hmm. He's the crown jewel in what Newcastle have got going on at the moment. World-class number 9s are such a rare commodity. They are back in the Champions League. They just won silverware with him at the front of it all. It would be highly unlikely that Newcastle would be particularly receptive to any interest in Alex Isak.
Yeah, it would. Of course it would. But we are Liverpool. We are Premier League champions Liverpool. So I think we'd be well within our rights to at least ask the question and to put some money on the table and see just how receptive they were. Because I do think whilst it's all well and good sitting there and putting out through their own journos that they have no interest in selling, because of course they don't. But let's see what happens when you do put 130 million on the table, for example. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
Whilst they
not to them, like, but yeah,
and they know what a lot of money looks like.
I mean, whilst the owners are the richest owners that exist, more or less,
in any sport.
Yeah, they can't do a lot with that at the moment because the rules and regulations stop them. And whether you think that's right or wrong, that's the world we live in right now when it comes to Premier League football. So they had a real battle, as we know, with PSR last summer, to the point where they were doing wheeling and dealing on the very last day. Elliot Anderson was leaving the football club. They were bringing in goalkeepers no one's ever heard of in Nottingham Forest just to get by. Basically, it was Anthony Gordon stuff and all that palaver as it turned into, really. So they are out of the woods somewhat from that, but they're not clear in terms of like they can't do whatever they please this time around. Selling Isak, we've often said that Newcastle will at some point have to sell someone big in order to be free from PSR. Why not make it Isak and why not let it be us? Because as you mentioned there, he's everything. He's absolutely everything. He is the dream signing for fans, for Liverpool, everybody. He's a one-man forward line. The fella can do the lot. So yeah, why not at least ask the question?
I think you're going to struggle with us three answering this question properly because I don't think Dan did a great job.
Oh, why not? Happen? Yeah. No.
And I'm sort of with him a lot.
I think I covered all the points why it won't happen. Like.
So can we just go on to why it can?
Yeah.
But is that okay?
There is no reason why. There's no reason why it won't.
Well, there is because
200 million, you're silly. That's
what
silly.
the fuck are we doing? Like, how the fuck are Liverpool dropping over 100 million on 2
worry
footballers?
about that.
Sell that
Don't
much
worry
worth, is my
about
point.
that. Yeah,
I think
well.
we'll sell what we could then therefore put on the table for
Sorry,
Isak.
Chris, I'm not worried. I'm just playing the part, but it's cool. Like, it's good. It's good that you really got into it. Like,
don't, mate.
I think the PSR point's worth picking up on because Dan's dead right. They managed to get themselves across the line, and actually, with the gift of hindsight, it's got them back into the Champions League. It was very smart the way they played it last summer. But what they're now back in the situation of is that they can incrementally build again. So they'll be able to buy a couple of players who are quite good, and they might be able to improve the squad to some level. But also, they're now fighting in a world where they want to be in Liverpool's pool, but they also realistically they're not. They are not in Manchester City's pool just yet. They're not in Arsenal's pool in terms of where they're shopping and how their sort of financial clout is going to work. So if we're saying 3 of those Champions League places are largely boxed off for the forthcoming window, there are a ton of football teams fighting around that, and Newcastle have already learned it from previous experiences. They got into the Champions League, cool man, well done. You drop back out again, and then you're back to fighting for it. If the next time they get in there, they'll want to stay in there.
Absolutely, and that's what they've got to do, haven't they? I think when you look at someone like Alexander Isak, you're probably looking at it, and if you're him and going, well, that's great, and I'm okay with trying to get us in the Champions League and stuff, but I need my short career. I want to win. The timing I don't think is right for him. I think their biggest problem actually is how much money he's on a week. I think that's a big issue for Newcastle. I think he's like the 5th or 6th highest earner. He's on £120,000 a week, rumoured to be, tied up till 2028. If I'm Alexander Isak and you're telling me that I'm worth £150 million or £200 million and the most expensive footballer in the world, why are you paying me the same as Kieran Trippier?
Yeah.
That's the big problem that they've got. And if he's got an agent, that's what the agent's going to be telling him. You're worth more than this and you can win more trophies at another football club. Newcastle, that's their biggest problem here, not Liverpool. It's a problem they've got themselves into. Because if he's worth that much, they need to pay him 300, 400 grand a week, and they need to win trophies. And they don't look like they're going to pay him 300 to 400 grand a week, and they can't win the big trophies that Liverpool can win at the moment.
I think that's absolutely spot on, and it was great for him. You know, he obviously lifted the League Cup, and he has that moment, and that can go one or two ways. That can give you a taste for what's to come, but it can also be great. I feel like I fulfilled my brief at the club, done that, got us back into the Champions League, and now I'll move on, because you're right, short career thing. He's 25, he'll be 26 in September. I would be going to, if I was looking to influence Isak from behind the scenes, I'd be whispering Ollie Watkins in his ear over and over again, and maybe even Ivan Toney, and going, you're really good, mate. You are, one of the, if you're in that top 2 of the best strikers in the Premier League, and therefore you'll be that in the Champions League if you get to play in there consistently. But you have got a shelf life before that big move. And the longer you wait to make that big move, the amount of clubs who you can make that move to will shrink.
Yeah,
and
Man United.
Well, yeah, always, because they'll pay stupid money even if he's got one.
And maybe
leg.
a Bayern or something as well.
Yeah. But even then, like a Bayern Munich, but you're looking at, you'll lose Liverpool at some point because Liverpool won't be buying him. Will be less likely to buy him at 27 than they will at 25.
Mate, everyone's looking at Gyökeres now, aren't they? And going,
the age.
27.
Osimhen falls into a similar category as well as that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
now's the time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean with that is this is your window of opportunity, because a lot of people will say, well, it'll still be there next summer. And it won't be gone by next summer. It won't. But there is a lower likelihood. And there is also the factor, Chloe, that if Liverpool don't fulfil that this summer, they're going to make someone. And actually that does close Liverpool off probably to a move for him next year, because let's say they go for Ekitike is the second choice and he does absolutely smash it, well, there you go. That's Liverpool gone for you. And everyone else might have made their moves, and then all of a sudden you are stuck at Newcastle. And what if they don't make the Champions League next year? Yeah, sliding doors for Isak here.
Yeah, there is, and there's only a certain amount of clubs who can also afford to pay that amount of money, and they're the clubs that, I mean, we've said it time and time again, Arsenal should have gone and got Isak, and why they haven't gone and got Isak is probably because they don't want to spend that kind of money on a player. They definitely need a striker, and the best is there if you can go and get him. So, for them, why wouldn't you focus on doing that? In terms of Liverpool, I think he'd also fit in here. I think he'd be absolutely brilliant for us. And look, the team is basically built for you. There's an entire spine there. There's the foundation there. You're not coming in and hoping that, in 2 years' time, you might be challenging. You're coming in and you think that you are the final puzzle piece to this entire the entire squad. So it is interesting. I just don't think Liverpool will do it because of the price tag. And you mentioned I can't even say his name, Ekitike. Yes. I think 100 mil for him. When things like that get absolutely thrown around, and I think it's around £85 million. Why the bloody hell am I spending £85 million on a lad I've never heard of, when I can go and spend 120 on Isak, who I know is literally world class and would be the best for us? And football doesn't work like that. Sure. But in my head, there's not loads of difference there in money, but there's certainly a different level of class. So yeah, look, I'd absolutely adore him to be in the red of Liverpool, and I think he'd be incredible. I personally don't see it happening, but I do think he has to make a decision because, like you said there, the window of opportunity does go, and Liverpool on a team or a club who will wait out for you and let you, in a year's time, then decide we'll go and find the next best thing, and we'll go and spend the years developing that player or improving that player. So yeah, it's hard to do with Newcastle because they won't want to sell him, but let's see.
Just bring us back to Ryan's super chat from before, Dan, when he talked about the João Pedro thing. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people saying, well, he's the Callum Wilson replacement, but I'm sure, I don't know if they give him a new contract, or they're certainly not looking to get rid of Callum Wilson. I know he had major injury issues last year in particular, but again, João Pedro's good enough to play as the main centre forward for a Premier League team. That's just not going to happen. I just don't see how football. I don't see footballers making that move, if that makes sense, unless he's being promised a little bit more, or they're suddenly going to start playing two up front.
Yeah, I'm not sure the two up front, but I take your point, and I think that does definitely sort of pique my interest in terms of whether we are indeed properly at the table for Isak, if they are looking at bringing in João Pedro, because you're right, he is 100% a nailed on starter for most Premier League clubs, and he won't be moving for anything less than that, you wouldn't imagine, because why would he? And the Callum Wilson thing, whilst he still may be there, I'm not sure how much use he really is, because the injuries have always been a thing. They've plagued his career, really, haven't they? When he is fit and fat, he's actually a decent number 9. It's never really been the case often enough. But yeah, for me, it all boils.
But that's what you're looking for. I think when your first choice centre forward is that good, you've kind of got to own a Callum Wilson most of the time, because you've got to have someone who isn't going to be.
The problem with Callum Wilson is he's not fit at the same time that Isak isn't fit.
That's always been the thing, hasn't he? He played Gordon, haven't they, potentially a few times. But you're right about João Pedro. He feels like if Isak was definitely on the move, you wouldn't be shocked if they went to João Pedro. It's kind of the point, you know what I mean? Because to come in and be that guy. So, yeah, I definitely retain a level of interest and intrigue about Liverpool's interest in Isak. I think there's something to it in terms of, again, we've all said it in different variety of ways, how perfect a fit he would be for the football team. I think he'd be absolutely exceptional. But for me, it all boils down to, and you've alluded to it a moment ago, Chris's point about the trophies is where it's at for me, really, because it's all well and good winning the Carabao Cup, great, happy days. It's all well and good getting into the Champions League. This is a footballer who's ready to win the Premier League, ready to win the Champions League. And Newcastle aren't ready to do that. They're not going to be ready to do that for 2-3 years. Is Isak going to wait around? They might not even be ready then. He should be looking at this and going, love my time here, really sort of pleased that I made the move from Sociedad and you've given me the platform to succeed and be the player.
Cheers, I'm going to a big club.
Genuine, I wasn't going to quite go that far. But I think we're at that time now. We've all and also your point, Chloe, about Liverpool not waiting. Liverpool historically have waited for footballers they believe to be the right fit. I don't think we can this time when it comes to the 9. Personally, I don't think we've got the options at our disposal in order to get by.
Well, it goes back to like how are we behaving, and that's why I'm not laughing it off like this is ridiculous. In some ways, I think Liverpool, if they can find a way to make it happen, they'll absolutely will find a way to make it happen. Because what's the point of undoing what you're doing? And I said this last week, like. Just to reiterate the point, I think once Kerkez is in, we could legitimately pull the shutters up and say that's it. All transfer business is done. Quansah and Kerkez say, if we really wanted to, maybe that's a Quansah replacement to make that make sense. But you've improved the areas that you needed to improve, and you've actually gone one beyond with Wirtz as well, who I don't think would have necessarily been on anyone's radar. You could make do. I'd say make do. We scored more goals than anyone last season. We've got the firepower there if we really needed to run with what we've got again. But if you're going to go make a point, this is a bit of Chloe's point as well, like, are we going to go and spend big money on someone who could be the next Darwin Núñez? Or you're better off just getting a sure thing? I
completely agree with that, mate. And what Chloe said before, I just don't think there's any value in, not any, I just don't think there's a lot of value in the 65 to 90 million pound market for strikers. Okay. Like João Pedro at 60, that's crazy. He's worth it, but it's crazy that 60 million buys you what is essentially a backup to Alexander Isak.
If that's what that is.
Well,
it goes back to my point. I get a bit of a point from last week. What you're buying's got to be better than collectively Núñez, Jota and Diaz in that position, I think.
I think the other thing is Liverpool, you're right, why I agreed with it so much is that the Darwin Núñez thing will sting them because they bought potential there and it was unfulfilled potential in their eyes. Whereas they might be looking at an Isak going, we're not buying potential this time, we're buying what we consider, don't quite like the phrasing, but a sure thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that's where I think you need to go forwards with this, because we're the Premier League champions. We don't need to take as many risks in the transfer market. We've got loads of dough coming in comparison to all the other sides nowadays. We pay good wages. We're one of the biggest sides in world football. Let's act like it and let's just go there and let's keep us there. Not none of this one Premier League in 5. Yeah. Let's attack everything and go back to back to back. Yeah. And let's hope that Manchester City, have some kind of something that goes on with the 115, 130 charges, whatever. And there is nowhere else that's going to pick up those trophies but Liverpool Football Club.
Exactly. And this is City getting Haaland when we're buying Núñez. This is that kind of situation. And there is a consideration as well. Why aren't Arsenal in? I don't think Arsenal can go that heavy. They haven't got the assets to sell to raise the kind of funds anyway. And they have been in their building phase for 5 years now. So they've been spending heavy in the market for years and years and years. But let's say, as an example, you might leave it a year. And Arsenal might have the money then. So someone might come in with a game-changing bid for Saka or Saliba. And actually they go, it's fair. And that gives them the ability. And then you're fighting with someone for the signature. It doesn't look like anyone's at the table at that price. And I don't think even Newcastle think Liverpool are at the table for that price. Liverpool just seem to be, and this is just me reading the fucking tea leaves at this point, of seems to be very... I was like a smugness about it, and I'm not getting this from anyone other than just the general reporting, because if Liverpool weren't feeling smug about it, they would be very quick to shut this down.
I completely agree. The one thing I will add on that's slightly different to that is, it goes back to my point about his wages before, I'm not sure Liverpool can do it without Isak going to Newcastle and saying I want to leave. Mm-hmm. That's what I feel like Liverpool are waiting for on this one, where they're trying to just disrupt him enough that he turns around and goes, I want to go. Yeah. And at that point, that's when Liverpool move in.
The other thing is it's a lot of money right now, but in 5 years' time, if he's won 3 Premier Leagues and 2 Champions Leagues, it's not a lot of money at all, is it? Because he's gone and won you the biggest trophies. It's great for him because he's gone and won the biggest competitions as well. And the only way to prove that money and to make that money, you know, not sound as outrageous as it is, same with Florian Wirtz, is go and perform on the biggest stage and go and bring home those trophies. Yeah. And then it will never be, oh my God, they broke a British transfer record, or how much money did he cost? It'd be, fucking hell, Liverpool have won 3 Champions Leagues, 4 Premier Leagues, whatever it will be. And
they broke the record twice in the summer because they won't let that go.
Exactly.
That's fine.
That'll be fun.
Like Real Madrid. It's like fucking Benzema, Kaká, Ronaldo. Like, you know, just fucking go for it. Like.
Well, let's have it right. We haven't spent loads of money, have we, comparatively, for long? So we kept our powder very dry, and we were all wondering why. This might be why. Just to have this mad summer where we just absolutely blew it out of the water and went. And also, you're speaking about the money. You're right, Paul, in terms of like nobody shot it down to the point. I obviously had a conversation for our show about Paul Joyce last week, and he didn't even say Liverpool could afford to do this. It feels like it's in our sphere in order to actually go and put a serious bit of money down on the table for him.
And I do think
interest rates have been high. Now they're lower down a little bit. So
how strong's the dollar at the moment? You know, there's definitely moves to be made. There's definitely a value in behaving like a really big football club, you know, and that's what big football clubs go and do. They just go and take the best players from other clubs and make themselves even better, and just step on them, push them down a little bit while they're doing it. It's not how we've conducted ourselves, but actually, you know, you're right. It feels like we've been building towards something. The thing for me, I look at Mo Salah, and when he signed that contract, what I said then was, we need to be in a position next summer where we can afford to let him go. And I don't see a world where you can do that unless you've bought a world-class number 9. And for me, if you've bought Wirtz and Isak, then Liverpool could conceivably go and rake in a shit ton of money for Mo Salah from Saudi next summer, conscionably, and not be totally capsizing everything at the football club to do that. Whereas if you don't sign Isak, you take a gamble at Ekitike, you might be in that position in a year's time. He might score 30 goals in this season and all's right with the world. But I feel more confident in that a year out, where you've got a bit more flexibility because you've already built in. That's your next team. Yeah. It's not Mo Salah's team anymore. It's Isak and Wirtz's team.
I just don't see how you can. There isn't another right winger that will score an assist as much as Mo Salah, so it's going to have to change. So it's going to have to be a centre forward. So get him in before.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt on that one. Yeah, very, very cool. We had some super chats which I missed from earlier on, so let me just fly through some of these. Sider Macho says, are they keeping Joe? Going off social posts, maybe. Yeah, the Gomez stuff's been pretty quiet, hasn't it? And,
well, he put that post out, didn't he, where he said, you know, looking forward to the future, essentially. And, you know, lots more to come.
He was 10 years at the club, wasn't he, the other day, Mark? Yeah, obviously longest serving player now. Yeah, it is quiet. Massively. I still maintain that there will be serious interest in him and a lot of suitors out there, and I think there will be a price point where Liverpool look at it, and it's kind of come back to our Quansah point, like, are we just shooting ourselves in the foot and making more business for ourselves? But with someone like Joe, who you can't really rely upon anymore, it might be most sensible to allow him to leave.
Mutt says, I would like us to get Collins too from Brentford. I've got no opinion on that.
Nathan Collins, yeah. Decent. It's been mentioned a few times, actually, I must admit. I think he's one of them. He's a very Moneyball type sign that feels like no one's really speaking about him, but a lot of the numbers and the stats suggest he might actually be quite a shrewd bit of business. So, yeah, maybe.
Okay. Joan Alvizzo says, best channel on earth. Thank you so much. It's not true, but thank you. YNWA Redmen. And Real McCoy says, Ekitike hasn't reached ceiling yet, but Isak does. Yeah, I mean, just to, I guess, half translate that, I guess, because it's like Isak, the notion is Isak is at his level, which is to say a world-class centre-forward. Yeah. Ekitike could well reach that, or his ceiling could theoretically, because he hasn't reached it, could well be higher. The flip side of that is it could well be
the floor's lower, way lower with Ekitike. The floor for Isak is world-class footballer, like, you know what I mean, and maybe a bit of an injured floor hole in it or whatever. Who knows?
That's a good situation, though, isn't it?
It is. I really like Ekitike, by the way, and you know, I've spent some time watching him over the last few weeks and stuff. I actually think his link-up play is probably like fucking sensational, like. So I'd be really pleased with someone like an Ekitike, but I also think what you're paying, which is close to 75, 80, 85 million quid, if you could get Isak for 120, for me, you spend 120. It's what Chloe said before.
The Isak stuff's interesting because the injury stuff always comes up. He missed 4 Premier League games this season. 2 of them were a broken toe. Yeah. You know, like, so, you know, there's an argument that he's growing out of the injury side of things as well, and therefore this would be the good time to.
But you know, the other argument, he's moving to a football club that uses AI in their injury stuff, and you know, Liverpool could be a better place for him to fulfil, you know, a full 38 game season as well.
Ali A, yeah, presumably not that one, but what about Malik Fofana? Thoughts? Anyone heard of Malik Fofana?
Heard of him?
Who does he play for?
Seen anything about the lad? No. I've just seen reports about it the last week.
Yeah.
No idea.
Plays in France?
No idea.
Yeah. That's a shame.
I'm 99% certain.
Most of there's about
Central fielder?
30,000 footballers, all named Fofana, and they all probably play in centre midfield.
There is always a trend in football where you have a name that, like, there's like 5 lads playing at the top level of football with
all
the same
probably in the
surname
French
for a while.
league as well.
Yeah, 100%. Traoré at its time. You know,
a couple of Jorams into the brothers.
Yeah.
Well, some of that was.
Matt Travis says, how cool would it be for Sobo and Milos to lift the Champions League in their home country next year?
Yeah, true.
Much love to all of you, up the fucking Reds. That would be absolutely sensational. I'll be here for that. I you know what? I actually don't even care if they're in the team. Yeah, just, you know, as long as it happens, fine. Let them have the photo. Last question, just a quick one. Victor Osimhen has a £64 million release clause. Yes or no?
No.
Chloe Boxham, no. Chris Bajer.
Just seems like a bit of a tit, doesn't he? And Liverpool don't really shine many of them. So that is what I'm basing it off.
Yeah, I don't like the mask either.
No.
Nah, I'm not a fan of it.
What is the mask? Was that not an injury thing?
Yeah. Just don't like it. Coupled with the fact that he's a tit.
Okay.
I think we're quite a long way down.
You still know it's you, Victor?
No.
Who is that masked man?
Our list of ideal targets should we come to Victor Osimhen for a whole host of reasons. I think there's a reason as well. No Premier League clubs ever pulled the trigger on him. He's been banging goals in for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously very good. Clearly, absolute powerhouse centre forward. Lots to like there. I've always sort of thought of it Chelsea, to be honest with you, but yeah, good, very good. Just not for us. I don't think
he's not played in the last few internationals for Nigeria, has he? But Nigeria are in the African Cup of Nations as well.
African, yeah, absolutely.
I think he played in the World Cup qualifier back in March or something, but I don't think the last few he's played in. I don't know why.
He scored 37 goals in 41 appearances for Galatasaray last season. And I know people will go, yeah, the Turkish league. But honestly, how many really good players have gone to Turkey and been fucking shite?
Listen, when Napoli won the league under Spalletti, he was sensational. But then he couldn't get in the side under Conte the next season. He dropped to like 10th in the league or something.
He was also racially abused by his own social media.
Yeah, that was wild.
Well, again, when you think about Bellendi, you know, it's like, I'm not sure. I think he might be entitled to a degree of Bellendi, you know, social media's being like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The guy is goals, and if we're talking about Isak's goals, Ekitike is a potential scorer of goals, and there's a few others kind of floating around who are that.
Is he 26?
He's 26. You know, and that price seems to be that's about mid to high market for that, and for what he's done, proven wise, that's value. That's market value. I think it's £64 million for Victor Osimhen.
But there's got to be a reason why no one's done it beforehand. Because 2 years ago he was just as good, and he was, you know, going into the prime of his career, and none of the clubs wanted him, even though there was loads of rumours. Yeah. So that might say something.
But then, you know,
I don't want. To be honest, I'm so fed up of like players leaving in the middle of the season to go to African Cup of Nations. True. Like if it's a choice between someone who doesn't go to that competition and someone who is, and they're the same, I'm going for the lad who doesn't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, especially this season as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. People, I've heard some bits and pieces about the personality side of things, but like people said, Gravenberch was a knobhead when we signed him. That was like one of the big things coming out of Germany. You know, well, yeah, But like we've signed a few people who had that kind of label with them, and we normally say, Liverpool stay clear of them. But obviously that's their decision. I agree. It doesn't feel like Liverpool would go for him. But if you just wanted to get someone in, and you wanted someone to come in and score goals for you, he's there.
Problem is, if we're talking life after Salah, and what does that look like? Signing somebody else who disappears for a month mid-season, to Chris's point, doesn't feel very beneficial to us, really.
Hey, listen, we've just had 8 years of Mo Salah disappearing to AFCON or constantly, it seems, and we've been absolutely fine, for that. So
the other thing is, I mean, if you're seeing the offers on the table from Saudi and also from Galatasaray, I'm not sure Liverpool go and offer him that amount of money and spend that fee on him. Like, it's one or the other.
Such a good point.
And if Saudi are willing to give him 40 mil a year and Galatasaray are willing to give him some of the highest wages in Europe, I'm not sure Liverpool can join that table of wages and paying that fee.
In his defence, though, I think that's more driven by the fact he wants to play in the Premier League.
Keep saying no to them, and they keep going back and going, all right,
I don't think that's
40 million a year.
Just a year to me.
But Galatasaray have still offered him a really good amount.
He's done that. He's been there. He wants to be.
They don't want him there. He doesn't want to be there. If Fabrizio Romano's saying it's 200 grand a week, this is a 20 to 30 goals.
Who from?
That's what he'd be expecting to come to the Premier League.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say what Saudi are offering him. I was about to say that.
They will be offered, but I think that's actually testament to his character a little bit. He's turning around and saying, no, I want to play at the best level, which is in Europe still.
When's that 200 grand a week from?
This is Romano said this last month. So Man United have learned that his wages would be 200 grand a week.
If that is at the top when they're 1st of May.
Yeah.
So he's had loads of big offers since then.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
it could quite conceivably have doubled by now.
Yeah.
Because he's learned that he's got, 40 mil a year or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it could have quadrupled. If we're just going to say things like,
If he's had contract offers that are way bigger than that in the last near 2 months.
From clubs that he doesn't want to play for.
But if he rejects them in favour of a move to somewhere he does want to play for 200 grand a week, that's a really...
I just, for talking sake, given that that's a thing, that just as a talking point that's out in the world, 200 grand feels a fair amount of money for a lad who scores that amount of goals.
100%.
And that puts him... That's what Isak would be coming in on, I reckon. If we signed him.
Yeah, probably more.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Interesting. Chat, let us know what you think on Victor Osimhen. Doesn't feel very Liverpool for whatever reason, but it's one of those. Would you take a gamble on a younger player or a slightly younger player, or would you want to just go in and get goals? Let us know. We have got a special offer code for you guys if you want to come and join us over on the Bias Transfer podcast, which we're recording very shortly after this. If you head to redmenplus.com and use the code VIRTZ, WIRTZ, you can get a monthly captain subscription for half price. So fill your boots on that. Couple of quid to come and try us out for a month or so. That sounds very good indeed. So come and join us over there. Guys, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. We're going to be doing a Club World Cup date and having a big old chat about where we think all the strikers on the market this summer will end up at over on that show. So hope to see you over there.